College Connection.
Welcome into the studio, everybody, on this chilly Martin Luther King Day afternoon, night, or whatever. I hope you guys have had a nice day and a nice weekend, enjoying that extra long break. I'm your host, Garrett Neal, and you are tuning in live to the box office breakdown here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Let's get into the quick rundown of what we'll be going over in this show. First, looking at the top 5 from this week. Glass staying strong at the box office. Then number 2, big point today, Dragon Ball Super Broly goes Super Saiyan at the box office. And third big point that we'll be going over today is when we take a look at next week, will The Kid Who Would Be King rule the box office? Love those two. Definitely super original jokes that have never been done before. But hey, I try to at least put some humor or cheesiness into the big points. So let's start with number 1, which is Glass being strong at the box office. When we look at this top 5 for this past weekend, of course, technically it's a 4-day weekend or 3-day weekend. It's 4-day because Friday counts. Friday counts for the box office. So obviously we don't have the full numbers for today, but we're gonna be looking at the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what would be like the normal box office numbers? Then we'll take a look at what these films are projected to do over the full 4-day weekend, which would be including today. So, of course, Glass, no surprise, did come in at number 1, bringing in $40.5 million in 3,800 theaters. Definitely lower than expectations. It was projected to get, higher 40s, maybe into the 50s. This weekend, and so I think definitely those low critic scores, it got hurt it a little bit there, but it did only have a reported production budget of $20 million, so they already doubled that, and they should continue to do pretty well over the next few weeks because A, there's not a whole lot coming out until February, and B, it ended up getting some pretty solid audience scores. Resting at a 7.1 on IMDb right now, and despite still having that 36% critics rating, it does have a 78% audience score from Rotten Tomatoes. So audiences generally liking it a little more than the general critics have been. I'm definitely in the audience camp there. I just saw Unbreakable and Split these last few weeks. And I like both of them a good amount, and I enjoyed Glass a good amount. Definitely had some problems, but I enjoyed my time in the theater, which I cannot say for some of the last few things I'd seen. But yeah, as it is coming out in January, it's chasing some box office records because, of course, January, not known for its big movies. The highest grossing opening in January was American Sniper back in 2015, which opened to $89.2 million. So Glass is going to be still down there at number 4, because there's a big drop-off between number 1. Number 2 was Ride Along. Ride Along brought in $41.5 million back in 2014. That's the number 2 opening. So, 2 through 5 are all pretty close. Glass is sitting at number 4 right now for just the opening 3 days, not counting today, of course. It has that 40.5, which is below Kung Fu Panda 3 and Ride Along, and then way behind American Sniper. But if we're looking for what it's projected to do over the 4-day weekend, it's projected to be around $47 million. Which would put it at the number 3 Martin Luther King Day opening weekend of all time, behind, again, American Sniper and Ride Along. But apparently Kung Fu Panda 3 wasn't Martin Luther King Day, even though it did open. It opened last week of January. And Glass did end up just beating out Split. Split opened to 40.01 million. So Glass got about 500,000 more in its opening 3-day weekend than Split did. So at least you did a little better than the film before you. Way to go, Glass. Did get a B cinema score, which is better than the C that Unbreakable got way back in 2000. Split got a B plus, not quite as good, but I still think this should have decent legs. I mean, a B cinema score is not anything to, write home about, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, C is pretty bad. I'm surprised Unbreakable got that low. I mean, I think Unbreakable has been kind of one of those films that over time has gained a little bit more appreciation. Might not have gotten great reviews when it came out. Of course, I don't really remember because I was 2 when that came out. And worldwide, it brought in an additional $48.5 million in 55 markets. Moving on to number 2 was The Upside, which dropped just 26% in its second weekend, brought in $15 million for STX Films, and yeah, that's good. It already had a above expectations opening weekend, and it's holding well. Just that feel good story. So a good start to 2019 for STX. Number 3, the familiar face Aquaman, still hanging around. Brought in just over 10 million. Broke the $300 million mark in its domestic gross this week. Of course, crossed $1 billion globally last week. And it is now just $21 million shy of The Dark Knight Rises from becoming the highest grossing DC film of all time. So it'll probably pass that in 3, maybe 4 weeks, depending on what the drops are looking like. But it's, it's not, after seeing it, I wouldn't have pegged this one to be the highest grossing DC film. I mean, obviously some of that's just time, because some of the older films are just not going to be able to bring in this amount of cash because inflation and such. But, I like Wonder Woman a lot more, but oh well. That's, I mean, I shouldn't be mad that a movie makes money. Like, I'm not mad, but it's just, I would have, after seeing it, like, I thought it was pretty okay, but it's just kept going, and I guess there's just not really anything else out right now. But a big surprise at number 4 is Dragon Ball Super Broly. Now, I'm not in with Dragon Ball. I have probably seen a handful of episodes here and there, just like at friends' house, or just like, because I mean, it's just it's so big that you catch it every once in a while. I've watched a decent amount of the abridged series, which is hilarious. So I don't really know what like the word around this is, or what it's about at all, because I just don't follow that series. There's just way too much there for me to want to go into. But it brought in $9.7 million this weekend in just one, just over 1,200 theaters, which is really good PTA. Almost beat out Aquaman for that number 3 spot. And for the 4-day weekend, it's looking to bring in about 11.5 million is what they're projecting right now. So just, I mean, kind of out of nowhere. I mean, especially considering how many, it's a pretty, I mean, limited release. It's I mean, obviously it's over 1,000, so it's a wide release film. But I mean, Aquaman's in 3,500 theaters, Upside's in 3,300, Glass is in 3,800 theaters, and then Dragon Ball is just like, yeah, 1,200 theaters. We're just gonna make almost $10 million. No big deal. So that's kind of a surprise. It'll be interesting to see how it does in its second weekend. But I guess the Dragon Ball fandom was very excited about this film. I think it's been a decent amount of time since we've seen a Dragon Ball movie in theaters. So I guess it was a market, and it hit it pretty darn well. coming in at number 5, rounded it all out, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which brought in an additional 7.5 million this weekend, dropping just 16%. Way to go. Look, I know I was kind of ragging on Aquaman, but like Spider-Man, I'm excited it's doing well. I should always be excited things are doing well. There are very few films. There are some films that I'm mad did well, and Aquaman's not one of them. But it's almost always good to be excited for films doing well. And Spider-Man hanging in there, still doing all right, and is probably after the 4-day weekend where it's projected to get about 9.7 million. It'll be 9 or 10 million away from Hotel Transylvania 2 to become the highest grossing Sony Animated Pictures film of all time, which I'll be very excited to see because I love that movie. And I want more unique animated films. Please do it. They're great. And so in probably 3 weeks or so, we'll see Aquaman become the highest grossing DC film. We'll see Spider-Man become the highest grossing Sony animated film. So that's just something to look forward to. In the record books, of course, we got to look at the highest per theater average. We have Who Will Write Our History, which opened in a whopping 1 theater this week. It's a drama, or it's a documentary, excuse me, about Emanuel Ringelblum and the secret archive he created. I'm not really sure the story of this. I'm not familiar with it. He has a big archive that has a name that I Oyineg Shabes Archive, but it documents how Jews died in the Warsaw Ghetto, but also how they lived, and it's based on a book of the same name. Has a 7.4 on IMDb, on 29 reviews, and in its 1 theater, it got $13,390. So that won the PTA, and it's in its 1 theater. So, kind of had a little bit of an advantage, because when you're only in 1 theater, you're probably going to do pretty well. But there were a couple other films that were also only in 1 theater that didn't get 13,000. So that's kind of what we're looking at for this past weekend. Weekend's technically not over, but this is if we're looking at things all equally, then this is it. Because not every movie gets 4 days, guys, so you're kind of cheating if you want to say, hey, we opened to 47 million. If I was like, oh, we opened to 47 million, I'm like, yeah, but, took that extra day, so that doesn't really count. A couple other, I guess one more noteworthy thing is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is still in theaters in some places, crossed over that $200 million domestic mark. And we'll probably see that come back around come awards time, which is interesting considering the critic responses that it got. But with that, we will take a quick break, and then we'll be back to finish the show. We got a couple films. We do have things coming out next week. They might not interest you. They might not be huge, but they are coming out, and so we'll take a look at them so that then we can report back next week. So stick around. We'll be right back. This is the Box Office Breakdown. I'm Garrett Neal, and this is Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. All right, welcome back to the last 7 to 10 minutes of the Box Office Breakdown. I'm Garrett Neal, and you're here live in the basement of University Hall in Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection studio. And the 2 films that are coming out next weekend, the big one, if you can call it that, is The Kid Who Would Be King. It's a modern retelling of the King Arthur legend, where King Arthur is a I guess he's a middle schooler. I want to say elementary schooler, middle schooler. He's a youngin. He's a Ute, and him and his gang of friends gotta stop Morgana and all that stuff. It looks like could be a fun family film. Does have 32 reviews in on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and it's got a solid 88% rating, average rating of a 6.9 out of 10. I mean, I guess I'll go see it this weekend. I usually see at least one thing, and it doesn't look like I don't know if it's going to be amazing, but might not be a waste of time for sure. And it's projected to do about 10 million this coming week in about 2,500 theaters, or 3,500, excuse me. So, I mean, Glass is still probably going to hold that top spot. There's just not. I mean, it's just not a big movie. There's nothing big coming out until Lego Movie 2, February. But it'll just be interesting to see. Maybe if it gets a little bit of good word of mouth, maybe it'll do a little bit more than that. There's by those. Because we're looking at other family films out right now. There's not a whole. There's Spider-Man is really the last kind of. It's all like Spider-Man, Mary Poppins, those holiday films that were kind of the family stuff, and those have been out for a while. So maybe since there hasn't been a good family film in a while, or a good kids film really, then it might get a good bump from that, but it's not going to do too much. Will probably come in, if it does get around that 10 million, it'll probably come in second, because Glass will still probably get 20 or so next weekend. The second one is Serenity, starring Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. Tells the tale of the mysterious past of a fishing boat captain comes back to haunt him when his ex-wife tracks him down with a desperate plea for help, ensnaring his life in a new reality that may not be all that it seems. It's got a big cast. I remember seeing trailers for this a while back, and I was just, they confused me every time. I just had no idea what it was about. There was like there was a fishing pole, and like it was like slowly ticking back, like something was pulling on it. But then there was also like the focus on this like relationship drama, and I'm like, and then like see like someone wanted Matthew McConaughey to kill somebody, and I was like, what is going on? I had no idea. There's no reviews out for it yet, which is always a great sign. And it's projected to do about 5.5 million. It is going to be relatively smaller release though, or at least compared to Kid Who Would Be King, looking at about 2,500 theaters. So it knows it's not a big deal. This one seems like it might be one of those dramas that just tries to swing for the fences and just misses a lot. But it does have a big cast, so maybe it'll surprise some people. Who knows? There's nothing really out about it right now. I think it looks very strange and doesn't really interest me. So like, if I was gonna see something this weekend, I'd probably go see Kid Who Would Be King. But God, it's January, and it's frustrating. One of these days where someone's gonna be like, hey, maybe we should just put out something really big in January, and then it'll make a bajillion dollars because there's nothing else to see. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't tune in next week when we break down what The Kid Who Would Be King did. What did Serenity do? How did Glass hold? Did it fall like the critics might say it would, or did the solid audience scores keep it going at a strong pace? Who knows? We will next week right here, 6:30, Radio DePaul, Garrett Neal, Box Office Breakdown. Be there, or don't be there, but have your ear to the, listen to it wherever you do, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll be back next week. Enjoy the rest of your Martin Luther King Day, and it's back to work and everything, and school and such tomorrow if you got off today. So there you go. See you on the flip side.